Hello, I'm Robert Ellsberg. I'm the publisher of Orbis Books, and I'm very glad to be joined today by the Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., a legendary figure in the struggle for civil rights, peace, social justice, founder and president of Rainbow Coalition Push Rainbow Push Coalition, twice a presidential candidate. And we might be in a better world today if he had won. Last year, in the beginning of the year, we were very pleased to publish a collection of his speeches and sermons with the title "Keeping Hope Alive," one of his, of course, trademark slogans. And I'm also very delighted here to be joined today by the editor of that book, Professor Grace Jisun Kim, who is a professor at Earlham School of Religion and the author of many books. So I'm particularly glad to welcome Reverend Jackson here this week, which happens to be mark his 80th birthday, if I'm not mistaken. And I wanted to just begin by just asking you, what does it feel like? What does it mean to you to have spent 60 years in this movement?
Thank God for making me a long distance runner. I really kind of eased up. I would count the years, count the days and the situations that we were in. 62 years ago, I was an 18-year-old college freshman. Came home to use the library to get a speech I was to give 25 annotated bibliographers. I went to the color library and just having the books. So when I taken my friends downtown, my friend, the librarian, General Library, Central Library, went down and she said, she knew I was coming. Police happened to be there talking with her as a friend, just talking with her, I thought. So I gave her, she said, I'll get back in 7 days. I said, we're about Christmas vacation. I can't say 7 days. She said, I said, may I go down to Saks? I heard the term Saks, Illinois, to read the books by myself. Police, you heard what she said. I got the message. I cried. I said, well, I'm going to use the library this summer. I was determined to do that. And 7 of the classmates and I went to jail. We were arrested and charged for breaking the peace, as we were in Greenville at that time. So I've been on that journey ever since, 62 years later. I've seen America come out of the deep, deep, deep Taliban-like oppression of the South, change the laws, make life better. I mean, after all, I was born in legal segregation. My father and his brother in the military at the same time. Two brothers shouldn't serve at the same time. They served at the same time. My dad was 46 years old, 46 when he had the right to vote. They served in the military, paying taxes, unlike corporations today, paying taxes and working hard, 3 jobs. So the Southern experience is meaningful to me. I'm glad I had that experience. They came to urban North, Chicago, and began to lay the groundwork for Dr. King coming here. Urban North was so different. First time blacks ever had president attacking Dr. King at the press conference. The scene here was so different. There was a sense of a false sense of privilege that really didn't exist. Urban areas of ghettos. And in the ghettos, there was no control of the ghetto. We began to organize boycotts so the stores could put black products in and use black services. Johnson Products couldn't get Ed Jebden in the stores. But there was no black checkout counter clerks, no black produce managers, no black meat cutters. We changed all that with some boycotts. We were going to open up the urban areas. The model used all around the nation. Open up we built the first chain store on President Calumet, 1967, I guess it was. He gave me the assignment of organizing ministers. Maybe jobs and rights. We took it far beyond jobs and rights, the whole economic plan. So I feel good about these years, and I think about going to bring Americans home from foreign jails. That was a big deal. Cuba, Syria, and Assad and Goodman, Castro and Saddam Hussein in Iraq, and going back and forth to Libya, trying to get the nurses out of the places that became a source of pain for everybody. He wouldn't let them go because politics was so thick. We then went to Africa and brought Americans home from the Gambia. About 10 different times we brought Americans home from foreign countries. And There's more work to be done in that area right now. America's been held in Afghanistan. I think a moral voice must be heard, not just political ones. To begin to deal with the Taliban as human beings, not just quote unquote as terrorists.
Thank you so much, Reverend Jackson, and happy 80th birthday. Thank you so much that you are a long distance runner and that you were 18 years old when that was your first arrest, and then you've had so many more arrests after that. So you're for civil disobedience and disrupting the peace. So we were able to capture some of that through the book, Keeping Hope Alive, which we are so honored that Orbis Books was able to publish. It was so great to work with our publisher, Robert Ellsberg. So this book, I'm just so glad that we were able to get it out a couple years ago. And now, with the pandemic, it was difficult to do the book signing, but with your 80th birthday celebration, we're hoping that churches and seminaries and students and just people who are interested in your work worldwide will be able to read the selection of sermons and the speeches, because as you were talking about, you went to the different parts of the world to free people and to bring people back home. You also gave those speeches and they were so well done. And we were so lucky to be able to collect some of those speeches and put it together into the book. So thank you so much for your service, your lifelong service, and we can celebrate your 80th birthday, October 8th. This is fabulous. And thank you again, Robert, for putting the book together and publishing it.
Thank you for letting us be one of your 19 books you've written, 19. Moving on 20. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my 20th will be coming out called Invisible. So I'm very excited about that. So thank you, Reverend Jackson.
It was an honor for me to work on this, and of course, as Grace mentioned, our promotion kind of was stilled a bit by the COVID pandemic, which touched you personally as well. I'm very glad to see you're with us here and doing well. But history didn't.
About COVID.
Yeah, go ahead.
I had 2 shots.
Uh-huh.
It hit me with it bounced off. I was there with my wife, who was quite sick. I was
Asymptomatic.
Asymptomatic. That's right. And I had no pain, no vomiting, none of those symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctors knew me. Said, "Give you a test." I tested positive. Put me in the hospital, and I went upstairs. And for 4 days, it was positive.
Mm.
And then the 5th, it was negative. Then positive, negative. Then negative, negative. So I really was in the hospital about a week. I was in rehab for about 3 weeks. It hit my Parkinson's. It didn't hit my chest with the typical symptoms. So I'm learning how to walk. I'm learning how to walk again. I'm getting ready for my next demonstration.
Wow, thank you. You've been walking around the whole world. So we're so glad that you're able to walk again and the rehab helped you because, you continue to march and we're so grateful for how you lead so many people to march with you for social justice, economic justice, and gender justice and racial justice. So thank you so much, Reverend Jackson, for your service.
I went to a high school today where 2 kids were killed within 4 hours of each other. And 2 killers have not been captured. I say somebody knows who did the killing. Teachers may not know, parents may not know, the superintendent may not know, but you know who did it because you know who was angry. Then I said there's this cultural gaps in justice is a factor. If blacks kill whites, it's jail time. Whites kill blacks, riot or rebellion time. Blacks kill blacks, it's like Miller time. Like it doesn't matter very much. Right now we're chasing a young man around the world who killed a young lady. We think he killed her, but there's one person, and we're losing people by bigger numbers than foreign war numbers every day in these inner cities. But I think what it is that the culture accepts it. Sure, I say that you the new superintendent of schools, you're going to judge him, you're going to judge the mayor by violence. It's unfair. You know who did the shooting. You know who's angry at him. You know who when the fight started. As a matter of fact, if a gun was in your friend's locker or in the car, what would you do about it? It was nothing. What would you do about it? Would you tell it? No, snitching is dangerous. So if there was a white student in your class and you saw a rope or Some of us saw in his car, I heard you tell it. More people dying from the gun than dying from ropes. So let's not be confused. Killing is wrong everywhere all the time, whether it's by rope or by guns. So we had that kind of conversation today in Chicago, and we'll be writing about that in the future.
Wow, thank you so much for your continued service. So Parkinson's and COVID is not slowing you down. So we're so grateful for your work and that we were able to capture this in your book, Keeping Hope Alive. So I'm hoping many people who are interested in your work and your continued work will be able to study your sermons and study your lectures. So thank you so much.
Grace, what are the things that you most learned from this experience of working on the book with Reverend Jackson?
You know, Reverend Jackson is a world citizen. That's what I realized. The sermons and the lectures, they're not just given here in the US, but they are given worldwide. He's traveled, and even during the pandemic, he was able to get the most highest award in France, given by the president. So that's what I realized, that he is a world citizen. People recognize him for his service and for his continued struggle for social justice. So for me, you know, it was hard to put it together and to edit it, but I am just so honored to do it. So grateful to put this kind of living history together. It is really living history. And, you know, some of the younger folks, you know, children may not recognize Reverend, but I think through the book, people will recognize, you know, and get a slice of history of what he has done, the impact. As you said in the introduction, you know, he was twice presidential candidate, and we put his speeches in there too, so people can get a glimpse of political history, religious history, and cultural history. So it is such an important piece of work, and I'm just delighted that I was able to do this and put it together for Reverend Jackson.
Grace, what we did was we sought to make a theological case. Our church focus on the sin within us, and the sin that we're within. The church says, if you just honor the Ten Commandments and do this and do that, and tithe in church and sing and all that, things we build, that's not true. What we're within is a structure. Jesus within Galilee was different than Jesus as Constantine. Structure within determines a lot. Size 10 shoes, size 8 foot, you got a coin coming on your foot. No matter how righteous you are, how raucous you are. So we tried to teach a view of the gospel that's encompassing, that makes us fit to struggle. Jesus was a struggling poor man, giving people confidence, fighting the Roman Empire.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and you capture that in your sermons all the time. And the other thing I learned, Robert, is his lectures are very much like a sermon. You know, there is this challenge and the good news in there, even though it's not given in a pulpit. Reverend, I think within himself is a reverend, and he is a minister. So whether it be in the political scene, the DNC convention, wherever it is, it feels very sermonic, and the delivery also feels that way. So, you know, it's very exciting. So I hope those who haven't gotten the book, that they will quickly get a copy and really study it, because Reverend Jackson, you are this walking legend, and this kind of, you have this insight, and that's how you were able to carry out your civil rights movement and your work that many of us don't have. So we're just grateful, and we're able to capture some of that in books like Keeping Hope Alive, and that was an honor to do.
But our work is a mission. I'm separate from the church.
Yeah,
the church militant, the church powerful. When I think about this book, and we were in India, when we were gun to walk, talking with gunless people. We were in Riverside Church in New York, and Democratic conventions. We did three things that were important. One, we showed that we could function on the global stage, not be embarrassed. One time, Barack Obama, we were talking downtown in the health club. He said, you know, Reverend, so I was a student at Columbia University. We debated Mandela and Hart. And I said that, and I said, this thing can be done. If we got no further than that, Ellsberg, we planted the seed. He said this thing, and he did it. So we were planting seeds. We reduced the threshold for a delegate from 35% to 15%. And people could raise 35% worth of money. And then we ended winner take all. So if I got 35% vote in California, Mel got 40, they get all the delegates. He ran with proportionality. You only get the number of votes you got. You don't get all of them. So changing the rules have changed the situation. We had in him a great candidate, but it wouldn't take all. Hillary won California, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas. She's been the winner. But on the fair rules, he was winner. So rules do matter. I was looking at the basketball game last night. The Sky played the Suns. And women's basketball, by the way, women should go and see women play basketball. It's great games, by the way. At any rate, the Suns were supposed to win the game. And Sky beat them 3 out of 4. It shows that whenever the playing field is even, rules of public, goals, clear referees, fans, scores, transparent, we can all win. Even playing field, public rules, clear goals, transparent scores, we can win on those conditions. That's the society we want, where you even the playing field and make the rules public, goals clear, referee fair, score transparent. We can all make it. We're trying to say it over again.
Yeah, and that's what you've been trying to do for your whole life. Basically, that's the struggle to even the playing field. So thank you for that, because it's not just for African Americans that you're struggling for. You are struggling for Asians, Latinx, Native Americans, immigrants, and refugees. And I know recently you were speaking out for and speaking up for the Haitians, the Haitian refugees. So we're so grateful. And you know, this Parkinson's and COVID's not going to stop you. You're going to keep marching and keep doing. And we hope that you will continue to write, because that is the living legacy that you will leave behind. So this keeping hope alive, and we hope that you'll continue to write more.
On Haiti, for example, when Haiti's dead, Haiti won the revolution, the free African slaves. First revolution was successful.
Yeah.
Now, the only free black people in the world was Haiti. Africa was colonized by the British, the French, Dutch, Portuguese, some group. Slave trade, African Americans trapped all down to the islands. They were in slavery to Britain, France, and the Portuguese and Spaniards. Well, what happened was that when Louis defeated Napoleon in Haiti, it took French territory. French were used as a platform to the rest of the Caribbean islands. He ended French expansionism. He also battle in Haiti, and there's a marker to indicate this in Savannah, Georgia. They fought the Battle of Savannah with us, the American Revolution. The battle they won in Georgia helped to free up the Louisiana Purchase. We're deeply in debt to Haiti, and we ignore Haiti. It's just Haiti is the only place in the world black people were free at that time. So their masters didn't like Haiti because they thought they would trigger rebellions on their plantation, and it did, because there should have been rebellions against slavery. And Haiti paid away, so we cannot leave Haiti in the dark. You spend $2 trillion on a failed war in Afghanistan and give Haiti a pittance. It's not fair.
Thank you for teaching us all this history. We're always grateful for all those knowledge that you share with the rest of the world. And I know you've been fighting for the Haitians, so thank you so much.
I'm thinking of, of all the things that have happened in this last year. The book goes back through a lot of history, but it was incredible how much it spoke to events of the last year. I think of the important role that African Americans played in this last election, especially in Georgia, which connects with the doors that you opened in '84 and '88 when you ran for president. I think of the awakening around Black Lives Matter last summer with after the death of George Floyd. You were very involved walking out there. I think of the death of your friend John Lewis, who in 1965 at Selma helped promote the Voting Rights Act. And here we are, 50 years later, and still trying to fight that battle. And so, how do you keep going, and how do you keep hopeful?
My faith sustains me. I'm protected by the grace of God. I mean, it's no single act I've done. It's God's will. My Foxing is age 80. You know, Moses preaching at 80, by the way. And Caleb was 85, saying, give me this mountain. God has room for old people to use their skills, their devotion to God's glory. I thank God for that. And we're going to fight. We're going to free Haiti, economic shackles. We're going to fight for a bill in Washington that will daycare and child care. People, right wing, willing to kill a woman so she won't have an abortion. And when the baby gets there, fight against health care, daycare for children. What a contradiction. You're going to kill a woman if she wants to have an abortion, and she keeps the baby, and the baby gets here, they're against child development. We expose those contradictions. We fight those contradictions, Bob, every day.
Yeah, thank you for your fight. So we know age is not going to stop you, just like Parkinson's and COVID. So we're grateful that you're continuing to fight and you want to free Haiti and fight for women's rights and justice. So thank you so much. And as the publisher, Robert Ellsberg, has said, your book, even though some of those were given 10, 20 years ago, it still is applicable. And we learn so much of how society has changed and also has not changed. So we continue to fight. So thank you that you are working by the grace of God and you instill in all of us this hope. So thank you so much.
And this book by the grace of Kim too. Thank you very much. And Kim and put together, we still wouldn't have the book. Yeah. So thank you, Kim, for your contribution to making this happen.
Oh, I'm so grateful that it finally came through. So, and I'm so grateful to have worked with Orbis. That was my first publication with Orbis, and it's so fun, and it was so good working with Robert. So hopefully we can do more. Yeah, we can do more.
Not the last. Yeah.
Yeah,
we're gonna run out of time in just a couple of minutes. So again, I want to really thank you both. The lesson that I take away from this, and in the beautiful conclusion to the book, you spoke about. That the struggle for peace and justice is a long distance race. And you are an example of somebody of 60 years now that you've never retired or stopped walking, stopped making good trouble, as your friend said. And planting seeds, I really like that idea too, because as you said, you've lived long enough to see some of those seeds fall into good soil and germinate, take root, and even blossom. So we thank you for all those contributions you've made to our history.
We'll take the initiative. For example, it doesn't make sense for us to not be related to Cuba in our hemisphere. The Castro and his brother Paul did that is 60 years later. We can't keep starving Cubans to gain the support of Cubans in Miami. The Cubans in Miami who want to boycott Cuba, not hurting Castro and Paul, they're dead. They're hurting other Cubans. That's irrational. We must take on the bring Cuba into the fold. Venezuela, for example, use diplomacy on them, not boycotts and guns. There's more oil of the coast of Venezuela than out Saudi Arabia. 4 days away, Saudi Arabia 3 weeks away. We must look at these problems and seek to aggressively solve them, not just wait till somebody hit across the head and say, we're going to put on Band-Aids. Let's fight for peace. Where there's trouble, we ought to show up. People in despair, we should show up.
Always more to keep struggling for and keeping hope alive. And I thank you very much for joining us here today.
Yes, and thank you so much for having us. Thank you. Thank you, Robert, for having us.
You take care.
Orbis.
Have my pleasure.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, Reverend Jackson. Yeah.